So let me tell you about a story about Bob the Builder. Bob was 70 years old and ready to transfer his business. Now, here's the interesting thing. Two of his stepchildren, Bo and Donna, had worked in the business 20 and 15 years, respectively. His other three biological children had successful careers outside of the business. Bob had always planned to transfer ownership to his stepchildren, but his plans ran into some problems. So Bob's business was valued at $8 million, which was more than enough to provide for his family members with financial security. But over the next 4 or 5 years, Bob wanted to split ownership in the business evenly between his stepchildren, the ones that had been working in the business, using a discounted value to account for the sweat equity that they had put in. Seems fairly simple so far. Since they began working in the business, cash flow had risen steadily while they earned modest salaries. And Bob didn't think that it would be fair for them to pay full value. Again, I'm good. I'm on board with it. But when Bob's biological children heard about his plans, they didn't quite agree. And Bob had planned to provide each of them with $500,000 upon his death, which he believed was more than fair. His children, on the other hand, wanted to know why each of the siblings were going to receive 8 times more than each of the biological children would get based on the business's value. They also wanted to know why their step siblings, who weren't blood related, would reap financial benefits now, technically, while they would have to wait until Bob's demise. Well, Bob wasn't sure what to do. When he asked the stepchildren whether they would be more interested in receiving cash after his death instead of business ownership, they declined. They were not about that. They had worked hard in the business. Each had continuously turned down higher paying offers to work in other businesses, and they both had ownership mindsets. Despite the weeks of discussion with his children, Bob finally realized that neither side was going to budge on what the other considered fair. His stepchildren were upset that Bob had considered rescinding the offer after years of telling them that he intended to transfer the business to them. His biological children felt that receiving cash after his death wasn't enough and that they should receive equal value as their step siblings at the same time. Bob began to wonder whether he should simply sell to an outsider, but his stepchildren said that they would not work for anybody else in the business other than him or themselves. And he knew that if they left the business, cash flow and value in the business would crash. He was essentially stuck. So what could he do? Well, the biggest mistake that Bob made was confusing equality for fairness. His biological children believed that fairness meant that they would get equal shares of assets as their step siblings. His stepchildren believed that fairness meant recognizing their hard work and following through on his promises. I kind of have to agree with that one. Rather than trying to negotiate with his children directly, Bob, could have given them an objective rundown on his plans. He could have explained to everyone that the value of the business wasn't liquid and that his stepchildren would need to continue to perform well to truly reap the benefits of the ownership.